so you're going to want to get you a voltmeter and set it to volts AC. Basically, this left terminal and the right terminal here, you need to put your voltmeter positive on this side, negative on this side. It doesn't really matter. It still reads voltage either way. But this needs to be at least 20 volts AC. At full throttle, or by spec, it needs to be at least 3,000 RPM. I think it's anywhere from 23 to like 36 volts AC, but my okay is anything 20 plus. I had it at full throttle and it was only putting out 0.5 volts. So basically saying that means I have either a wiring issue going all the way back to the stator, or the stator itself is faulty. So in this case, I'm going to take my own multimeter here and set it to the ohm setting. We're going to disconnect these outer two, like the same ones we tested. This should be a connector, by the way. This shouldn't be a set of spade connectors. We're just going to see if this is has a circuit through it. And of course, I was reading in the manual earlier. I don't remember which one is which, but basically saying you don't want this to say OL, or you don't want it to say 0 ohms, because 0 ohms basically means you have a complete circuit, and I think the diode's bad, if I remember right. And then if it's OL, which means you can't complete the circuit, there's no circuit loop, that means you got an open in the stator somewhere, and the stator's no good. Okay, so I'm getting 8.6 ohms. Of course, this isn't firmly holding it. Yeah, this is inconclusive. Let me put the camera down, guys, and I'll actually test it and I'll come back to you. All right, so I spent a minute or two digging around. Of course, this is supposed to have a connector here with a body. That doesn't exist anymore because this thing's a farm tractor and it got absolutely hacked. Same thing goes down here. If you look, my top wire on this connector for the engine harness here, this is for the ignition, hence why it has a hot wire switch for the ignition. So, yeah, that's a good example of how bodged this thing is. And then 2 outer wires there, this one and this one here, are for your stator. I took my ohm meter and probed them out on the back and the front because the back's exposed. That's going to be the most direct link I can get to it besides going through the terminals here. And they both come out to about 1.4 or 1.5 ohms, which is a little lower than I'd like it to be, but honestly that's reading that everything seems to be okay in there. So I bet money this thing does charge. It probably needs a new engine harness though, and the harness that goes, really it just needs a whole new wiring harness, period, because this thing's so cobbled I don't know what does and doesn't work. So at least it doesn't have lights. But I'd probably put a new one of these on here for insurance. These are like $35. You know, you can't really go wrong too terribly much there. So I just thought while I was at it, this thing's not wanting to start. And a nice example of it is you get the clicky clicky but no turny. So I'm gonna go in here and you see that nut right there on top of the starter. Well, you're gonna want to get in there and touch the boy. You're gonna put your negative somewhere on a ground, and we're gonna see whether or not this is receiving juice or not. So I apologize if the phone falls off. It's kind of sitting on a perch. Yeah, the solenoid's not activating. So either, once again, I have a wiring issue or that solenoid's junk now, because it is not receiving 12 volts. And judging by it, it's got a lot of cobbled wiring in there. There's your solenoid right there, right back here behind these 2 nuts. I think that's like a $10 or $20 part. Pretty easy to replace 2 nuts. Just make sure all your wires go where they should. In this case, I know it's the solenoid because it started plenty of times before. Unless I had a freak accident where one of those wires broke or fell off, then yeah, I know it's the solenoid because it's just not cranking anymore. So that's pretty easy to tell. Well, this certainly went a lot further diagging than I wanted to go. Tore the head off, thought the head gasket was blown. It's not, it's in good shape actually. Was gonna adjust the valves, I just got curious that, and it's just easier to pull the head real quick and see, okay, where am I at in relation to piston, valves, all that. That's just easy way and my way of doing it. It takes 2 seconds to get in there. And I don't know how you guys are gonna see this. That piston moves. He shouldn't move, crank's in good shape because it doesn't make any bad noises or anything. So our exhaust valve here, got a TDC on the valve. Yeah, you're not supposed to be able to move that, so the valve guide's shot on that one. The valve seat, I looked in there earlier, looks pretty good, but I'd have to take the valve out to 100% secure that. And the same goes to this one. You're not supposed to be able to move it. And they're both shot. So, basically saying, well, minus the fact this thing's beyond carboned up. I'm not going to flip the head over because I got my hardware on it. But this poor thing is just downright worn out. So I wasn't anticipating tearing it down this far, but I had a feeling this would get me the exact same results we're seeing here. So at minimum, this thing needs to be torn down and rebuilt, probably 10 or 20 over on the piston, new piston and rod. Probably crank needs to be checked. Probably going to have to do an undersized bearing on that. Exhaust and intake valves probably need the valve seats done. Definitely needs the guides done. Probably new valves at that rate. This thing is in rough shape. And ironically, this is the patio tractor, or what seems to be the patio tractor. All this white right here is dogwood white. So at one point or another, this engine itself or the tractor was the patio tractor that probably never got converted. All right, I'll put it back together. I'm just going to try and see if it'll start and run for shits and giggles. Other than that, don't really expect anything much more of this because it's not in good shape at all.